and
right? That's what you're saying.
Expanding each character with the different types of sound processing to...
Yeah, he's trying to show the TV body and chip body in the characters. He's making these technological apparatuses be part of their being. He says, the synthesizer section, one ARP, one Minimoog, is used as an instrumental voice or voices and for sound effects purposes. The ARP output is taken stereo direct into the board. The Minimoog output is a mono direct feed to a quad pan pot on the master board. The player monitors himself on a small amp. The guitarist will require a stereo direct from a pair of acoustic studio amps. The bass is received from an acoustic studio amp. In brackets after the guitarist, you had electric 6, electric 12, electric mandolin, and transducerized acoustic 6. The drums, snare drum, bass drum, 3 tom-toms, hi-hat, ride, crash, rivet, and tiny cymbals, plus 4 cowbells and tambourine, are to be received in quad and mic'd in this manner. 1 bass drum mic, 1 snare hi-hat mic, 1 mic each tom-tom, 1 overhead mic favoring the cowbells. The bass drum front head should be removed as well as the bottom tom-tom heads. The overhead and tom-tom mics should all be keypecks tightly and reconstituted with the EMT in deep mode or its equivalent. The player can monitor the whole mix via headphones. Also required full lighting plus strobes, 1 red, 1 blue, 1 green, and a large screen for rear projection over the orchestra. The right side of the stage is the earth during the force.
I find this very interesting because this is another aspect we haven't talked about, technical specifications that go with playing live, or or his setting was very complex because he had a lot of people on stage, and sometimes he was playing in big venues, and there are a lot of things that get complicated when you have to amplify for the musicians in the stage and for the audience. And when you have this surround type of environment, because you get some feedbacks, and you have all types of interference and noises, and because he was such a perfectionist, I mean the sound checks I suppose he will do for a long time to check that each instrument is sounding good, and that if they move on the stage, there is no... Sometimes, for example, from the speakers, from the monitors on the stage, you get the sound of radio waves, so you have to move them and all these type of things.
Right.
So it's very interesting to see all the considerations that he put into his music, into the performance of the theatricals, of the PA, all these different types of effects to enhance
when you worked in the nightclubs. When you worked in nightclubs in Mexico City, you had to build the set and take it down. The other guys are too stoned. Did you organize the soundboard, you yourself?
Well, it depends because usually you played with 1 or 2 bands, and you had to go and make the sound check in the evening, and you have to, when you play after somebody else, you have to set up very fast. And sometimes you do a checkup, but the things are different when you are actually playing. And you have to have a good engineer. Sometimes in the clubs or in the places where you're playing, there's somebody who knows the equipment and is always there, so he knows more or less what to do, but that's not always the case. And sometimes it was very stressful because the musicians are more concerned with the groupies than with the equipment. And
yeah, Larry and Cecil. Yeah. Larry especially. Larry is always with the groupies.
With the orgy after the concert.
Yeah.
And, yes, it's but
you can understand partly what he's talking about here.
Yes, I understand everything he's talking about, and I find it very interesting because he's, for example, the Moog synthesizer was a mono synthesizer. It's an analog type of synthesizer, and the harp was like a new type of synthesizer at the time, and that already has stereo, so that was maybe polyphonic too, because before most synthesizers were monophonic, and that's why he says it only needs one output. Doesn't have to be stereo. And I remember something in 1968, the first commercial record of electronic music was actually this Switch on Bach by Wendy Carlos.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the first electronic record that became a hit, it was on the hit parade, and they sold like 15,000 copies of that, was Bach music.
Yeah.
So that's also like marking something, change.
Yeah.
And it was a really hard thing to do with that type of synthesizer. They had to make like a collage of what they were playing, because you don't have the polyphonic type of sequencers we have now. They will have to do parts of the tracks and of the music and then put them all together, and at the end have this illusion that everything is played at once all together. But it was really a lot of work to do that and to reproduce orchestral sounds with synthesizers. And that record really make electronic music popular, because that record made like something, a new technology, be better known by a wider public, like this type of science fiction instruments. But that was something that my mentor, Antonio Rosek, was always criticizing, that in most science fiction movies, they have orchestras. It's like, instead of having really avant-garde electronic music. And only this Forbidden Planet, that was the first movie with complete electronic music. And it's also about a monster and a cave and all these types of things.
Yeah.
Zappa likes.
Right. Yeah.
But, I just remember that when he's talking about the Moog synthesizer. Or Moog, I don't know how to say it.
Let's play this a little bit. What do I have on? When that... So you take that off. So I'll play a bit of Switched On Bach, since it was a historical...
Yes, Bach made electronic music popular. What about that?
Wow. That's amazing.
Wow. It is.
So this is Switched On Brandenburg Concerto Number 3.
Well, we get the idea.
Yeah.
But we can, I mean, we can really see what they thought was like an orchestra sound, artificial instrument I mean, for us, doesn't sound like an orchestra. It really sounds
right.
like a Game Boy.
Right.
Like a video
and
game.
So that is that's electrically altered. Well, what did Frank say? Electronically altered normal instruments.
This is electric generated.
Yeah. Trying to simulate the sound, simulate the original.
Who was the composer of that, Bob?
That's
Wendy Carlos.
From Bach, but the one that made it, it's he used to be a man, so it's like a Zappa screen movie. Yeah, his name was Walter Carlos, and the girlfriend became lesbian, and he operated himself and became Wendy Carlos. So it's like
he
a
was his girlfriend?
Story.
Right, so that he could be with his girlfriend.
I don't know what happened. But yes, I remember somebody told me that story, like, wow.
Right.
Like,
so Wendy Carlos, as a kid, she was a big deal for you. As a kid hearing about this woman, or be a guy back then, right? So what did you guys
hear? It was
hear?
Sort of a novelty of people being transgender and transsexual and all these other types of identities we have under the electric environment.
Right. Mm-hmm. Looking up the wiki entry.
You can not only be quadrophenic, but actually change your mid-body into another gender.
Right. Gender transition. Walter Carlos became aware of her gender dysphoria at an early age. She told Playboy magazine, I was about 5 or 6. I remember being convinced I was a little girl, much preferring long hair and girls' clothes and not knowing why my parents didn't see it clearly. In 1962, age 22, when she moved to New York City to attend graduate school at Columbia University, she came into contact for the first time with information about gender issues, including the work of Harry Benjamin. In early 1968, she began hormone treatments and soon began living full-time as a woman. In her Whole Earth Catalog review of Synthesizers in 1971, Carlos asked to be credited simply as W. Carlos. After the financial success of Switched on Bach, Carlos was finally able to undergo sex reassignment surgery in May 1972. Carlos chose to announce herself as the featured interview in May 1979's Playboy magazine, picking Playboy because, quote, the magazine has always been concerned with liberation, and I'm anxious to liberate myself. She has since come to regret the interview, has created a short list of the cruel page on her website, short list of the cruel, and gave Playboy's editors 3 Black Leaf Awards, meaning arrogant, selfish prig with a genuine sadistic streak. Carlos prefers not to discuss her transition and has asked that her privacy regarding the subject be respected. In 1998, she sued the songwriter-artist Momus for $22 million for his satirical song Walter Carlos, which appeared on the album The Little Red Songbook, released in 1998, which suggested that if Wendy could go back in time, she could marry Walter. The case was settled out of court, with Momus agreeing to remove the song from subsequent editions of the CD and owing $30,000 in legal fees. So she didn't get the $22 million. So we go to her website, look at the...
She wanted $22 million.
Right. So, yeah. So clicking on her official site, let's see her cruel list. It's not obvious. Warnings.
But many electronic music composers say the first electronic music record they heard is actually that Switch on Bach. She did.
Right. Well, I can't find maybe she doesn't post it anymore. Okay, so let's let's go into, did we finish that? Why did we get on to switch on Bach? What made you remind you of, all this technical talk that Frank's doing?
Just the fact that I find it very interesting that when Bach was alive, the first electricity experiments were going on, and somehow the first real popular record is Bach music again, or
right.
Electronic music record is Bach. So I think maybe from the non-physical point of view, that's like marking something.
Yes, yeah. Bach started it. Then
because that was in 68, and that was Rai returned to Essence in 67.
Yes, yeah.
So
January
we have our theories.
Our what? Our theories?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's. So I'll just read you the percussion. The percussion, including electro vibes, transducerized marimba, transducerized timpani, bells, chimes, and various drums, gongs, and noisemakers. The percussion, they're all fed to the main board and returned to their section in a mono-monitor mix. The transducerized marimba is a special purpose apparatus that will provide individual pickups for each marimba bar. These pickups, when fed to a resistor chain, would make it possible for any patches covering the full range of the instrument to zip around the audience in a quad orbit, aside from making the instrument more valuable as an orchestral voice due to improved audibility. The multi-keyboards, Hammond organ, grand piano, tack piano, electric harpsichord, Wurlitzer, Fender Rhodes with ring modulator, these are taken direct when purely electronic and transducerized when acoustic, with the exception of the Hammond. The Leslie on the Hammond is to be mic'd in quad and isolated from the other instruments, enabling assorted mysterious ethereal effects to be generated in an audience surround mode. Audience surround in quotes. The Hammond output is also taken direct. The keyboard player monitors his own amp. So that's pretty knowledgeable. I mean, he was trying to create a complex environment, sound environment. Do you know what the Leslie is?
Yeah, there are all types of organs, these electric keyboards and electric organs. Because I think when they had these technologies to generate electronic sound, one way of marketing this new technology was to have these controllers, these keyboards, like organ-looking, or because there were other types of controllers, like the theremin or many other different types. But the industry preferred to do something that was familiar, like organs that maybe had a pitch bend, or sometimes some filters, some special effects that could alter this. And you had like different types of instruments like bells and strings, besides the typical organ and what they call pianos or keyboards that really sound like electronic piano and keyboards. And some of these instruments are now called, some people have them in their sound libraries, like the Hammond organ or some type of special, like the Leslie, all these keyboards.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the Leslie. What is the Leslie?
Yeah.
I think what type of keyboard, but maybe it's a microphone. Let me see.
Yeah, it says the Leslie isolated backstage will be received via 4 mics. It will not only broadcast the Hammond organ, but will be equipped with a feed from the mix board, making it possible with careful scheduling to use it as a modifying device for vocals and instruments. Because it is being mic'd in quad, material fed through it, when finally broadcast into the theater, will appear to swirl ethereally or hang in space over the audience, the rate of travel being easily controlled by the keyboard player using the speed switch on the Hammond. The receive from the 4 Leslie mics should be tightly keypexed and reconstituted through the EMT to avoid any unpleasant mechanical noises when not in use.
No, I'm looking.
Wow.
The Leslie was a type of speaker that could also use for some type of effect, because it had some software in which you could affect the audio side now.
Okay, so we read a lot of Hunchenoot last time. We started off, the narrator says there has been a certain amount of scientific speculation recently regarding the possibility that civilization as we know it is perhaps not the first pinnacle of evolutionary achievement to be witnessed on the face of our wretched little planet. In layman's terms, then, perhaps it has all happened before. Perhaps it has happened several times before. Not exactly the same as now, of course, but it most certainly could have happened. And if by chance it didn't happen already, mathematical science has proven that the odds are at least 50-50 that something is bound to happen sooner or later. So remember we went through this and we're laughing about the equivalent Earth, sort of ionic concepts.
Yeah.
Equivalent this, equivalent that. So it begins with Drachma lounging, singing, "Time is money, but space is a long, long time." And so she's on the coach. That's the supposed beginning, I guess, of the universe. And she's trying to get the giant spider to get intimate with her. And so there's a lot of pleading to Hunchenoot. She says, "Yes, my erotically wriggling spider of destiny, take me to your reeking cranny or cave and caress me violently with your horrible scratchy feelers. And while we consummate our perverse rendezvous, I'll explain to you the fantastic details of the work I must do." So she's there trying to get things going for herself with the only other thing around, person or object. Then Dirk shows up with the Force Slings, and he's a human, and he plays around with her, teases her, various dramas. They're singing and playing. So this is the repeat of the solar object that has anti-earthling forces, and then a human shows up to confront them. So let's see. And so on page 45, and so having stated his case to the invaders from Earth, that would be Dirk. Wait a minute. No, Hunchenoot is stating his case. There ain't nothing to it. So he wants a spider mama. He wants someone to tangle his legs around. And it says, Hunchenoot squeals away on its fetid little harmonica, dancing a special dance, demonstrating to the Forcelings various possible methods of giant spider-inflicted grievous personal injury, causing them to dash around the planet in a state of frenzied terror. At the point where Hunchenoot feels he has given them a proper scare, he and the orchestra pauses to announce, "I'm going back to my apartment." So the way Zappa writes in 10 years later in Thingfish that Ebonics, what's that word?
Ebonics.
Ebonics kind of stuff. I don't know if this actually is. He's writing in this black slang back then, long before Thingfish. Is I grind back to my apartment and whip it till you religious folks come up with something hot and hairy I can identify with. And so, having stated his case to the invaders from Earth, the pathetic, misunderstood giant spider trundles back into his cave, and naught was heard but his busy little multiple appendages whipping it, I guess masturbating, while on her lonely sofa, Drachma, queen of cosmic greed, pines away for the love of her insect. That reminds me, I played you a song from We're Only for the Money called Harry, You're a Beast, which is the complaint that she's gritting her teeth and not into the sex. But there's Harry. Forgot about Harry back in 1967, so Harry shows up 20 years later, 15 years later, in the Them or Us book. So they're just pining away, and let's see. I know that Dirk thinks that he can fool the spider and fool Drachma, and he attempts it, and I think she catches him. Here's one. The Forcelings have linked their fantastic minds together for the performance of a special secret intergalactic alpha therapeutic cadenza. Here it is. Listen to this.
Wow.
Conversing to each other. Right. What's a cadenza?
It's like you have a sequence of chords.
Yeah.
For example, to create, for example, an ending, or to go from one tonality to another tonality. It's like this sequence of chords. It's called cadenza.
Okay. So this is a special secret intergalactic alpha therapeutic cadenza that the Forcelings do with their linking of their minds. Then it says conversing to each other on the instruments. There's the conversing. Assisted by ingenious stage lighting techniques, the essence of the Earthling's bold counterplot is revealed. It includes, among other things, a bizarre sacrificial maneuver by which Dirk must win the confidence of the evil space girl by means of his animal magnetism. But many hours ago, I was talking about the conversation between instruments. That's what Zappa has here. Conversing to each other on the instruments. Assisted by ingenious stage lighting techniques, the essence of the Earthling's bold counterplot is revealed. So,
but here's also the idea that music is therapeutic. That
yeah, right.
Zappa always saw his music as part of the therapy to heal humanity.
Right. So Dirk is trying to seduce Drachma, and he gets pretty far, but then he blows it. He agrees to do something with her, but on condition that she calls off her invasion of the Earth. That's when she gets really mad at him. So then she tries to get Hunchenoot to eat Dirk and the rest of them, but Hunchenoot starts scheming on his own, and he doesn't attack and eat Dirk, but he has another plan, and he's kind of ignoring Drachma's pleas to get rid of these humans. So where would we? So Dirk eventually does a psychiatric analysis of Hunchenoot to figure out his problem. And his problem is let's see, where does it sit? So Dirk promised the spider of destiny, Hunchenoot, that he'd get some spider mama for him. So he had gone off to the cave, hung out there. Then something disturbed him. He came out, and he said, "Oh, by the way, you got my spider mama, motherfucker?" Dirk Says, no, I got something better. Assuredly says, I got something better. And Hunchenoot says, shit, ain't nothing better than no spider, pussy boy. Why you lying to me like that? Dirk says, look here, brother. Would I lie to a giant spider such as yourself at a time like this? I am telling you, I got it. Now, what is it you go for in a spider mama? Look here, brother. It's a phrase from some other song. Hunchenoot, legs, nothing but them legs. So he wants a lot of legs, a lot of appendages on the female spider. And then Dirk says, right, and that's why I'm telling you, I got something that may change your life. But before we go into that, he analyzes Hunchenoot, explains his hang-up.
Psychological problems.
Yeah. I don't know if I could find it. What is it?
It's like we should do that with Lucifer. Like, what's your big problem? You can sit at the right of the Lord. Let's talk about your psychological.
Yeah, what did your parents do to you? What happened when you were in school that traumatized you? Still looking for well, I don't know if I can find it. So here's something. Oh yeah, right where I got to. That's why I'm telling you, I got something that may change your life. Hunchenoot says, what's that? Dirk, speaking clinically, let's make a systematic analysis of what the deal is with you. From my own vast experience as one of the greatest minds of our time, I've been able to trace the evolution and structural development of your hang-up as it relates in general terms to the enormous species spider mammoth. And let me tell you right now, the trouble with you is, buddy, you have a multiple appendage fixation. Drachma. A multiple appendage fixation. So Drachma, on the couch being ignored, in a very loud whisper says, don't listen to him, Hunchenoot, telling him not to listen to Dirk. Dirk, unperturbed, continues, now, there are two possible solutions to your hang-up. Hunchenoot, no shit. How'd the first one go? Dirk smugly says, I'm glad you asked. Listen, there is something very close to us right now, squirming, breathing heavily, tormented by lustful desires, in desperate need of some kind of perverse thrill, and it's got more legs than you ever saw before. Hunchenoot, in a calculating attitude, says, no shit, lot of legs, huh? Dirk, cheerfully, yes, indeedy. Hunchenoot, shrewdly, within easy walking distance? Dirk, beaming proudly, just a mere few feet away. Hunchenoot, hopefully, and it fuck good? Dirk, tactfully, well, let me put it to you this way. If it tactfully, T-A-C-T-F-L-L-Y, not tactfully. Yeah. Well, let me put it to you this way. If it don't fuck good, it eats. Can you dig it? If it don't fuck good, it eats. Hunchenoot thoughtfully, shit, Earth boy, you all right. Why don't you just go on and show this many-legged fucking thing to me right now? Right now, R-A-T-N-O-W. Dirk, proudly. There you go, Spider-Man. It's all, no. There you go. No. There you go, Spider-Man. It's all yours. Go ahead. Fuck the many-legged thing you see before you. Hunchenoot says, look here. I know you all might mean well, but get them lights off. That thing I seen squirming out there caused me to lose one of the best giant spider hard-ons I ever done sprung. So he lost his big hard-on.
Inspiration.
Yeah. This is supposed to be on Broadway. Dirk, consoling him, says, well, perhaps his best, because by your rejection of this many-legged temptation, a faint glimmer of hope has appeared, leading me to steadfastly believe that your hang-up can be cured. Hunchenoot, not convinced. What are you talking about, Earth Boy? Dirk, triumphantly. Simply this. With the aid and assistance of the devout membership of my new and exciting, spectacular, fantastic, non-sectarian, universal, whole wheat religion, all the skills, all the technical know-how, all the warm personal concern of our benevolent foundation will be brought into full force in order to rid you once and for all of the things that have caused your hang-up from in front. Now we're on page 73, and there are 81 pages. Narrator. And so, with an exhilarating religious fervor, the forcelings, that work for Dirk, or the cult members, the forcelings come to the assistance of the distraught Hunchenoot, relieving him of the very cause of his deep-seated emotional problem, as symbolized by his wriggling little spring-loaded appendages, plunging headlong in relieving him of the very cause of his deep-seated emotional problem. And then I guess he plunges headlong into the abyss of his insexual distress in order to liberate him in much the same manner their dismal competitors had attempted for countless centuries on earth. So, who are these dismal competitors? Acting in the sincere belief that they, the forcelings, after so many inept bunglings by those other benevolent foundations, would finally get it right. We return you now to outer space for the results of their labors. So, what happened there? Plunging headlong into the abyss was another, in order to liberate him in much the same manner their dismal competitors had attempted for countless centuries on earth. So there's the ionic idea of not being so keen on helping your neighbors. They believed and therefore engaged in inept bunglings by those other benevolent foundations. But the Ionettes, or what are they called? The sportlings, the forcelings. They finally got it right. So Dirk is saying, well, how do you feel, my man? A little bit better, huh? Any scar tissue? Saying that to Hunchenoot. Hunchenoot stretching and trying on his new biped stance. Shit, Earth Boy, this here is all right. Say, wait a minute, just one little minute. I see something looking good to me. Shit. Say, darling, what's your favorite form of recreation? Dirk, apparently unconcerned with the space girl and the insect, addressing the assembled mutants. So Dirk then addresses his tribe. Well, guys and gals, we did it. We actually did it, didn't we? We sure did, Dirk, say the forcelings. Hunchenoot is shouting, hey, Earth Dude, when you all going home? Dirk, looking around for a watch. I'll tell you in a minute. Must have dropped my watch during the big ceremony. Then Hunchenoot craftily, no shit, maybe I can help you all out. Don't you move a pound, long lady. I'm going to be right back. Look here, brother. Look here. Motherfucking price tag still on them. And they all running. So he went off to complain about something to one of the staff. And they all running like a champ. 21 jewels keep in perfect time. How much bread they giving you for this? For this? And Dirk says, say, what's this? What's this? A Harnelton? Precision jeweled movement? No, precision jeweled movement. Hunchenoot very convincingly. And that motherfucker can be yours, to have and to hold, for a measly old $200 bill. You getting least that much from around here. This a union house, ain't it? You getting at least that much around here. This a union house, ain't it? Dirk, glaze. I've never seen a Harnelton such as this. Forceling number 1, seriously. Come on, Dirk. Forceling number 2, seriously also. Yeah, we got to get back to the earth. The Harnelton, says Dirk. I must have the Harnelton. So what happens is Hunchenoot proceeds to hypnotize Dirk. He says his forcelings are trying to wake Dirk up. It's not working. And Hunchenoot says, why don't you all just get the fuck out of my way? Before you lose some equilibrium, boy, this here the world of high finance. So it says Hunchenoot, still dangling the watch with one hand, reaches over with his other and pokes forceling number 2 first in the right eye, then in the left, finally pulling the ping-pong balls over both eyes in a quick tic-tac-toe movement. Drachma sleazes overtly from the couch to Hunchenoot's side, so she starts hanging out with Hunchenoot. That's Gale, as Dracula. Hunchenoot says, you know, I ain't going to lie to you, baby. I done told you I was going to make both us rich and famous, and you especially, darling, along with a complete all-expenses-paid motherfucking vacation. Dirk, delirious. The Harnelton. I must have the Harnelton. Hunchenoot, continuing. And I'm going to take care of all that good stuff right now. Hey, Earth Dude, when y'all going home? Dirk, in brackets, still delirious, groping for the watch. I can't find my watch. Must have dropped it during the pause. I believe I can detect from your highly coordinated movement a flaming desire to acquire. Now, who's saying that? Second. Oh, okay. So Dirk can't find the watch. Must have dropped it during the confusion. So then Hunchenoot says, I believe I can detect from your highly coordinated movements a flaming desire to acquire this fine quality timepiece I've been dangling front your eyes here. And this motherfucker gone be yours in all its gleaming glory. Not for no $200 bill, not for no $100 bill, not for no $50 bill, and not for no spare change neither. Only this thing this magnificent motherfucker going to cost you is a piece of your mind. And what I means, brother, is when I put this watch in your hand, you and me and my old lady, along with them silly motherfuckers over there, we all going to be going through time and space, back to your silly ass planet, and we all going to clean up on them lame motherfuckers down there. Now, get your ass ready, because you all going to think us over as soon as I whip up this little time machine on you. He's going to whip up a time machine. And the thinking us over, I guess that's some kind of traveling that Hunchenoot can do. So Dirk says, after hearing all that, he's still hypnotized. His mumbling can just barely be heard over the catastrophe around him. He goes, I've got it now. It's mine. The Harleton is mine. Hunchenoot starts singing and dancing. I might have been a slave for the rest of my life, laying in a cave with the spider mama wife, hunching and a tootin' on a raggedy old bed with a spider mama leg round the back of my head. But now them legs don't bother me none, 'cause you can see what a job that religion done. Got a mohair suit, and that's all I gonna need. Just pimping all night for the goddess of greed. So it says, Hunchenoot dances over to stage right, gesturing for the audience to make a purchase from the 10-foot replica prophylactic vendor. Hunchenoot escorts Drachma back to the couch, which has been draped with a green velvet cover during the blackout. She sprawls lewdly across the sofa, picks up a small hand mirror, and applies lipstick. Hunchenoot marks the screen control panel, causing a slide to flash on. This slide, 2 big words: fuck greed. Fuck greed.
It's very interesting because in his freakout list, Zappa has a hypnotist as one of his main influences, and I think he's playing with this idea of we always want this new whatever, the new car, the new watch, the new synthesizer, the new guitar, and we are hypnotized by this monster that maybe now is the Android me.
Consumerism. Consumerism.
Yes, and everything is about selling and buying. And,
like I can look through wherever I was. I might have dreamt it, but I was looking through a window at an office, and I don't know what I was going to think. I think I faded out there or hallucinated.
It's good. He says the real cost of whatever you want is actually a piece of your mind. It's not the money value, but there's
a price to pay.
But it's not your mind. It's a piece of
your lucidity.
What? What did you say?
Your recollected lucidity.
Yes.
Because we don't have a mind.
When you have the words. So he puts up this sign, fuck greed. Now, Drachma is called the cosmic queen of greed or something like that. So it could be a spiritual statement, fuck greed, no more materialism, or it could mean something else, literally. I'm just looking up the cast. Dirk, Hunchenoot, the narrator, Drachma, Forcelings. No, don't seem to have that. So as Drachma sprawls lewdly across the sofa and picks up a small hand mirror and applies lipstick, Hunchenoot works the screen control panel, causing a slide to flash on. Fuck greed. Hunchenoot bows and dances off as the lights come up on the orchestra for the closing passages. Dirk and the Forcelings return and join Drachma for their bows, after which they all exit left. Lights come up on narrator the last as he bows, straightens up, points his hand toward the screen in a sweeping gesture, giving the cue for a quaint slide which says, the end. But in the dialogue parts, Hunchenoot is singing, just pimpin' all night for the goddess agreed. Any of you people want a good piece of ass? Form a line on the door because the goods won't last. She got tits like a bank. She ain't never on the rag. If she don't do you right, just salute her like a flag. This ain't no ordinary bitch I gonna interest you in. She the goddess agreed. She gonna make your pecker grin. So just get in that line in the back of this room and get your ass on home, 'cause that's the end of my tune. That is how this horrible opera ends. He becomes a pimp.
With a gangbang.
Yes, with a fucking gangbang for everybody to line up. That is the closing. I mean, what kind of mind? What's Frank attempting here? This is worse than manipulative satire. It's not even any beef art robotoys. I mean,
and this is
who is he writing this for? This is the what?
What will be the
upgraded version from 64?
Meaning,
right?
No, wait a minute. No. 64 is upgraded in 69. This is 72. This is another play, but of course it's the same old fucking theme of the global theater, and some alien on another planet wants to capture the planet, but he has to do it from the moon, and some earthling group tries to stop him. But it doesn't end up with organic robotoids melting. It doesn't end up with a happier ending in an orgy in 64. And 69 is the robotoids collapsing. This ends up with this is Zappa. Now this is right when Women's Lib's just starting. It starts at 69, 70.
I remember. I think it was Sartre, Jean-Paul Sartre, who talked about the serial relationships we have in modern society. Like you make a line and you pay in the supermarket.
Yeah.
And then the next and the next and the next. I think that's like this type of metaphor that we engage in this type of serial relationships in modern times. Everything is like very superficial. It's just like pay and go on the next, or or just,
pay it and go.
You talk with,
goodbye.
Yeah,
you did your bit.
Yeah, you engage most people like that, like in serial relationships. It's no more a conversation or a real interaction. It's just like
remember when I was in Berlin, and Roxy was showing around her neighborhood and the different stores she goes to, and she had nothing to say to the clerks. I'm all friendly, a new human being. I start talking, and Roxy thinks I'm a fucking saint because I'm talking to people, because she never talks to any of them. She just goes around the same boring neighborhood, buys her milk, her dope, her condoms, whatever she fucking buys, and hardly says anything. But I'm there all keen on any little storekeeper.
I was really surprised that Bob will engage conversations with everybody.
I was a tourist. I was an anthropologist. I was trying to learn about the culture. I was doing anthropology.
Yes, and for example, in the bookstore, you start
talking to the person just standing there.
Loud, and everybody's looking at you like, what? What is he talking about? He's talking about McLuhan and the daughter.
I thought I was on the radio. I never realized I had gone someplace. I hadn't seen physical space in years. And there, we got this on video, me showing some anonymous customer the picture of Mary McLuhan in the middle of meeting as a massage, with no clothes on. I said, this is the author's daughter. This is Mary McLuhan, right there in the video. And, yes, it was, I noticed that on the beach, you'll see different couples talking to the couple that's on a sun couch beside them. And they're superficially talking, friendly, but these are people who would never talk to anybody in their neighborhood. But when they go on vacation, they start feeling friendly, and they have to fill in their idle time, so they start talking to strangers and telling them all about their lives. That's a kind of modern hypocrisy, forced idleness, forced sociality on the vacation. So I was used to that superficial, hypocritical tourist lifestyle, so I did that, walking around being friendly like you do when you're traveling. I'm never going to have to see these people again. I have no responsibilities for them, so let's find out all about them and then go, bye, and never see them again. So Roxy mistook my tourist cliche behavior as a wonderful, saintly being.
Roxana, were they open to talk to Bob? Or they just looked at him?
No, he somehow made them talk about everything, about his life, about the favorite music, radio station, and yes.
And
whatever.
how they'd heard of McLuhan. Yes, I've heard of McLuhan. They all heard of McLuhan. But I didn't always bring up McLuhan. I would bring up Zappa or LaRouche or one of the other holy offices. I'm always staying within the on-duty, propagating my teleplay, my screenplay. Like Frank, he keeps writing the same fucking musical. So this is when women's libs coming in. A feminist would say, this Frank hated feminism. And he's got the evil woman taking over the planet. That's his perception of feminism. This is when it's happening, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. So maybe Frank is satirizing being a misogynist, pretending he's one. Or he's mad at them like McLuhan. They're missing the hidden ground. They're too busy trying to liberate their tribe and missing what's coming to them in the android meme condition. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I was thinking about that because in Mexico City we have such masses of people that we are used to this serial type of engagement with the mass because this makes things like more efficient, or the only way things can function. You don't engage the collective like an individual, but as a mass. And
you have to wade your way through it. You couldn't interrupt the traffic flow by talking. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, everything is done very fast.
Right, and no friendship. Like Carolyn's
yes,
really
and
good at that.
I remember when I first came to Berlin, I will be desperate because, for example, when you pay something at the bakery in Mexico City, the people make they know how much you have to pay, but they make it in their minds, the addition, and they do that very fast. And here it's like everything seems to be slow for me.
Right. And that made you desperate?
Yes, because it's like I was used to this type of serial engagement that everything is fast and
really quick,
and you don't really talk with the people.
So it slowed down. So you thought, well, maybe I could talk. You weren't ready to talk, but you were. It was being implied that you could talk, and that bothered you. You didn't know how to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was not used to it. Everything seemed like slow.
Yeah, the human scale.
Yeah.
But were you in a rush somewhere? Were you? Did you have to be somewhere? You were in school.
No, but you're just used to this speed.
Rapid
and also,
speed.
for example, I remember in Mexico City, people move very fast in the crowd. And here sometimes, for example, now that it's Christmas and some streets are crowded or the shopping centers or this and that, I get desperate because people don't move as fast as in Mexico City when they're in the crowd.
You get anxious.
Yes.
So you're not used to
Carolyn. You know, Carolyn's really good. She makes instant friends. She'll make, when you go through the airport and put your suitcase and it goes and gets x-rayed and all that, Carolyn will make a friend out of the person, helping with the suitcase or zapping it with x-rays. Within the 10-second exchange, Carolyn has bonded with them. She does something cute or charming that they like. So they do a double take and look at her, and she's pleasant to look at, and so they fall in kind of a love with her. And I'm walking along sour and grumpy and watching this go on. I've watched it for fucking decades. Yeah, I usually comment on it. Another friend, so the person, they're sort of removed themselves from Carolyn and now dealing with the next person, but if they're listening, hear the husband go, another friend, another best friend.
Yes, you are both very, very special, I think.
Yes, we are the final retrieved humans. We are the first to show up or the last to be here or something like that. I can't remember the order. I've lost my place. I don't know whether they're coming or going. Remember Dirk, and we did this.